We're live. This is episode 123 from the Shed End with myself, Theo, as always. Theo, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. I feel like it's two weeks in a row now we recorded on Monday. I hope this doesn't become our regular recording spot or slot because I do like the Friday ones. But yeah, I'm doing good. Similarly to you, after Saturday's result, I tried to distract myself, saw some mates, had a very sporty weekend, played football, paddle, and tennis all in the space of 2 days.
Not the London
Um,
Marathon as well. Thought you might throw that
no,
in
no,
there.
no, no. I've got New York marathon scheduled in
Right.
November, but
Okay.
didn't get into the London one yet. But it's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, huge congratulations to all the runners who accomplished it. It's a huge achievement to run 42 kilometers, regardless of your time. I know some people that wouldn't be able to run 10, so 42 is just a massive milestone. So yeah, huge congratulations to them. But yeah, dare I say, looking forward to the game tomorrow and looking forward to the week ahead. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, like you, just I think almost a bit of a surreal moment in terms of the match, which we'll talk about shortly. But just yeah, busy weekend, and I actually done. I was a bit disappointed. I'd done 6.6K yesterday, but I'd done it in like 40 minutes, which for me is like proper. You know, the standards have slipped. I think I need to get back to sort of at least below 30. You know, I'm talking 25, so around that mark. But so yeah, you know, good sort of active weekend. Not as active as yours, obviously, but yeah, we're going to get into the episode. But before we do, as always, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've seen the subscribers are slowly going up again, so we appreciate everyone who's subscribing. And again, if you're a Spotify or Apple Podcast user, make sure you hit the notification bell. You'll be notified when there's a new episode. And just before we get into this week's podcast, just as we started recording, I don't know, I see you check your phone just then, Theo. John Terry, Premier League Hall of Famer. He's just been inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame, so congratulations to John Terry, well deserved. I think one of the things we spoke about maybe 2 weeks ago on 2 episodes about who was going to go in after Ashley Cole. So John Terry, which we'll cover probably in the next episode a bit more. But yeah, definitely one that deserves it, Theo, I think.
Yeah, huge congratulations to JT, captain, leader, legend. It's quite shocking he wasn't even in it to start off back in 2020 or 2021 when they first came up with this Hall of Fame concept. But yeah, I think all the accolades and achievements and records that he broke during his time at Chelsea speak for themselves, and it's really deserved. I'm still checking if there's going to be an update on Hazard and Fabregas being inducted, because I
Yeah,
think they were
yeah.
the other two Chelsea names that were mentioned. But yeah, thoroughly deserved for JT.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think the other one was like Andy Cole as well. Yeah, another well deserved one for Andy Cole as well. But let's go back to Saturday. 5:15. The lineups are announced. We let's try and dissect it. Let's try and break it down, because obviously it was a really difficult game. And like I said before we started recording, you know, it's one of those games where you know you get caught up in the emotion and you just don't really process everything that's happening throughout the game until after the game or the day after. But going into it, I mean, I think I was always quite confident, especially with the lineup. I saw the lineups. I saw that Haaland wasn't involved, but they still carry a threat with, you know, Bernardo Silva and Doku and, you know, Foden. So, you know, it was a nice little refreshing point for us. But what did you think about our lineup? It was almost a bit of a blend between, I think, the two that we both predicted anyway. But any surprises for you?
Yeah, I mean, before I get onto the lineup, I was very similarly to you. I was very weirdly optimistic, quite confident ahead of kickoff. Remembering that City played on Wednesday against Madrid, there would have been a bit of fatigue, maybe a bit of, maybe it can work in two ways. It could be they want to jump straight into another fixture and try to win it, or it could shatter their confidence. But yeah, I was quite confident and optimistic. And like I also said, we had unbeaten against City in our two previous fixtures, the 4-4 draw in November and the 1-1 draw, I think, back in February.
Yeah.
But yeah, semi-final Wembley, the magnitude of this game, I wanted to see a lineup that I felt showed players that actually knew the value of the fixture. And that's why I think I mentioned I wanted Sterling ahead of Madrid, so I was pleased that Sterling started with Jackson and Madueke. Then it was Palmer. Wait, Sterling didn't start, did he? Sorry.
No, he came on. So
I've got that completely wrong. So yeah, Sterling
so
didn't start. So
Gallagher was on the left, wasn't he? I think, and then you had Palmer in the middle, Nani Madueke on the right, with Nicholas Jackson just ahead of them. So it's like a three, then the one in front.
Yeah, then Enzo did start finally, despite coming back from an injury and having limited time training, which was a bit of another surprise. But yeah, only real surprises for me: Sterling being dropped for Madueke potentially, and maybe Enzo being rushed back into the lineup. I think Cucurella for Chilwell makes sense as well, given that Chilwell had only just come back to training, or I think had some kind of bug. But yeah, and other than that, I think Chalobah and Silva, solid partnership between the two of them. But again, a bit of a surprise that these two are starting as the centre-back duo when both are very likely to leave come June and the summer. When we've got Disasi and Badiashile, who are likely to be our upcoming or future centre-backs, and they're both sitting on the bench. So that's not, I wouldn't say surprise, but something that
it's telling.
would be
It's telling that Pochettino doesn't trust them enough to put them in a semi-final when they're meant to be the future of the club.
And it's very telling. Also, it's telling that maybe we're forced into selling certain players that we're not wanting to sell, the likes of Gallagher, Broja, Matson, and Chalobah as well. But yeah, I think the two, Chalobah and Silva, since the Badiashile's dip in form and Disasi's injury, they've done well together, really well, particularly on Monday in the clean sheet and 6-0 win against Everton.
Yeah. As Chelsea do like to put you on a roller coaster. So obviously, I've even forgot about that 6-0 win against Everton. The roller coaster of Stamford Bridge continues. But I wasn't surprised with the lineup at all. I thought the lineup was what it was. And I think I can't remember if I had Sterling in my predicted lineup, but I think you want someone with the experience, someone who knows City very well as well, knows the manager very well. But just in terms of that experience that Sterling can and usually does bring you in those sort of games, you probably want him in there. But that's not to say Conor Gallagher, who I thought had a really good game. Playing on that left side, it works for him. I think maybe at times frustrated, but he's still done the work that we're used to with Conor Gallagher. Cole Palmer, I think, I can't remember if I said it to you during the game, but he just didn't look fit. He didn't look fit enough to be. He took an early knock anyway, I think, in the game challenge. I think, I can't remember who it was with, but he took an early knock. But just after that, he wasn't really committing himself going forward as he usually does. We know he's not the runner in terms of, he doesn't press or anything like that, but he's normally someone, when he gets the ball, he likes to drive towards defenders. And, he just didn't seem is sort of the Cole Palmer we've seen this season. He just didn't seem like that. But Enzo, I think, has got a lot of criticism online and from the fans, harshly in my opinion, because I think this is a player that I think we both said has played a lot of football, carrying potentially a hernia injury that's been ongoing. Is it harsh? Do you think the fans have been harsh on Enzo?
I think as soon as a player's value is astronomical like Enzo, there's going to be all the footballing world's eyes are going to be on him, and the slightest performance that doesn't go well, keyboard warriors, they'll be all over it. But I think he's clearly not the goal scoring midfielder that maybe some people thought we'd sign when we first got him from Benfica. But I think he's put in some solid performances, and like you mentioned, if he's nursing this hernia, which is something that we've spoken about offline, it requires surgery to heal. It doesn't magically just disappear. And I've had two in my life, and they're bloody painful. I'll tell you that. It stops your whole body from moving fluidly. It stops you from being agile. It stops you from almost bending as well, especially if it's in that inguinal canal part of your body, just in your groin. I think maybe he's delaying his surgery because he wants to wait until the summer and the season's over, so he doesn't have any fixtures that he'll miss. But yeah, if he's playing through this pain, it's completely understandable that maybe some of his performances have dipped. And like you also mentioned, he's played a bloody lot of football. I think alongside maybe a Palmer and a Gallagher, the three players in our side that have played the most football for us. So I think he's probably looking forward to a nice summer break, and he probably deserves it as well.
You say that, but I was reading this morning, apparently he's got a decision to make, because I think the Copa America's this summer, and there's apparently some concerns that if he has surgery during the summer, obviously he's not going to be ready for Copa America, so he might need to have the surgery during our season, miss the last couple of games to hopefully rush in time for Copa America, which then might make the issue more more of a concern for us going into that pre-season period. So I don't know. It's tough. I mean, clearly, you South Americans, it's their it's their World Cup almost, to play in Copa America. So I don't think he's going to want to miss that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see less of Enzo maybe in the next, after the Arsenal game. You'd assume he'll play in that. But I think after that, he might not be playing as much, especially if we get to the point where there isn't anything to play for in the season. There's still that talk about European football potentially. But if we don't get that, the run of results don't go our way, I would not be surprised if he goes and has that surgery early to be ready for Copa America.
Do we look a better side in terms of goal scoring side without Enzo in the team?
I mean, you go back to that Everton game, and we were a lot more free flowing, a lot more critical, I suppose, in the midfield. I think we played better without him in there, but I still think he's one of those players that maybe, again, like you said about the price tag, but I just think he's one of those players that he does still sometimes deliver that one pass. I think a lot of things he does goes unnoticed sometimes in the game. So I don't think he's a massive miss if he's not in the team as well, because I think plays that, Conor Gallagher stepped in there at times and played alongside Caicedo. So I don't think he's a massive miss, but I do think he's a vital part of the team as well at the same time. So it's a bit of sitting on the fence there. But what about you? What do you think he's someone that we heavily miss if he's not in the team?
I can't echo everything you said. I'm just remembering the performance against Everton because it's fresh in my mind from last Monday, 6-0 without Enzo in the side. And I think there was that period in between Christmas and New Year's where we played a few fixtures without him, particularly the Luton away game where we were leading 3-0, I think. And we looked very likely to score, bar the last 20 minutes of that game, which was very tough to watch. And I was hiding behind the sofa because Luton looked like they were going to score every opportunity. But yeah, I think it makes sense as well because you've got Caicedo, Gallagher, and Enzo, three midfielders, and none of them are natural goal scorers, I feel. Whereas if you drop one of those three players and you put a Palmer as a number 10 or even a Chukwuemeka, I think that just increases your chances of having a goal scorer. Maybe it gives you less stability in terms of the actual ball-holding midfielders in the centre of the pitch that can kind of lead the tempo, the likes of Gallagher, who can regain possession as well. So it kind of works both hands. But in terms of our ability to score, I think we look a better side without him.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think if the price tag wasn't the price tag, I think there'd be questions about if he starts the games. I think it's almost like he's by default needs to be in the team because of the price tag, because of how much was spent on him. But there is a player in there. We've got to forget he's a World Cup winner. He's played really well in spells. I think back to that Villa game, I think in the FA Cup, really good performance from him there as well. So I do think he's someone that we just need to keep an eye on, and he definitely needs to be doing better. 100%. I don't think anyone's saying he shouldn't be, but yeah, like you said, we have got other options, and I think when you take him out of the team, it kind of frees us up going forward a little bit more in terms of our attacking threat. So it remains to be seen if he starts tomorrow's game, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts. If he's on the bench or he's not available because of the surgery that he potentially might have before the season ends. But we've got to talk about another player, and I don't want to bring him up, and I'm sick of talking about strikers, but we got to talk about him. Nicholas Jackson, the man, the myth, the man that is not a legend. I run out of words, I think, for Nicholas Jackson. I just don't know. I mean, how many chances do you need in a game? And these aren't chances that you are struggling. They're not difficult chances. He's on side. He's in his own half. I can't remember who feeds the ball through to him. It might have been Enzo, or I think it was Enzo who played the ball into him. I can't remember. He's running through on goal. He beats the goalkeeper. He's literally got his left foot. He just needs to curl his foot round the ball. It's 1-0. These game-changing moments. The header, I think it's Palmer, who swings the ball in. He's had an opportunity before then as well, and uses this, rather than put the power into the shot, he kind of side foots it into the goal. These are basic chances as a striker you're missing. So strange because I praised him, I think only last week and the week before that, but he can't be the answer for Chelsea. The standards have dropped. What's your thoughts on Nicholas Jackson?
Yeah, so he's a frustrating one. That goal he took against Everton, brilliantly taken, a very difficult goal to score. didn't like his attitude towards the penalty. We haven't really spoken about that on the podcast. When he tries to snatch the ball off Palmer, him and Madueke, that's just not what you want to see. And that just really goes back to the podcast, the kind of lack of maturity in the squad, the lack of maturity, but also the big egos in the squad that think they're the shit, but they're deep down, they've got nothing to prove that they're the shit. But yeah, back to Wembley on Saturday, it was... I think Pochettino's game plan, he got it spot on, but then it wasn't executed by the likes of Nicholas Jackson, who just wasn't clinical in front of goal. Really tame attempt where Ortega just goes to ground almost in slow-mo and is able to get a hand to it. And then the header, for me, that's the pick of the bunch in terms of the sitters. It's just a lack of conviction. Just put power on it. It almost seems like in his head, he already knows he's going to score, that he just tries to gently brush it with his forehead. But instead, he just needs to put a bullet head onto that and into the back of the net. So yeah, it's really frustrating. And I feel like had he taken his chances, or had we had a striker with a bit more conviction, we could have been 3-0 up against City. But instead, those missed chances come back to haunt us, and then Bernardo Silva scores and we go 1-0 down. It's kind of, you would have felt maybe the tables had turned after the Everton win. We know how to score 6, and we thought we'd take that confidence and momentum into the City game. But on the contrary, it's the same old story. It's just these squandered chances and then letting teams back into the game. So yeah, really frustrating to see Nicholas Jackson have that type of performance on probably what was one of our most important games of the season.
Oh, it's got to be the most important. I think when we spoke about the final, the League Cup final, I think we were saying, it's like a stepping stone. I think this is one of those stepping stones again. I think you win this, it kind of gives you that final push in the league as well to try and win as many games out of the remaining fixtures. But just in terms of Nicholas Jackson, I think it's harsh on him as well. I think he's almost been thrown into a deep deep waters. He's kind of been told, right, you're leading the line at Chelsea, you're behind some of these great strikers that have been at Chelsea before you. But some of these are basics. I mean, that header, if he heads it to the goalkeeper's right in front of you, so intentionally you must think, right, I can't head it towards the goalkeeper, I've got to try and get it as the furthest post away, the furthest corner, and he doesn't do that. I can't defend him anymore. I can't, and I hear a lot of talk about he's better suited on the wide left and this. We haven't brought him in to do that. We haven't. We brought him in to be the striker at the club. Yes, he's scored some very important goals this season and he's played really well and he's assisted, but all of that counts for nothing when you can't bury at least one of your 3 chances that you've had that have been put on a plate for you as well. I mean, they couldn't be any more easier to score. They just can't. And it's just not good enough. It's just not good. We can't go into next season with that as the only option. Washington on the bench, unfortunately, we don't really know what he's about. You can't throw him into a big semi-final at Wembley. You just can't do it. We can't do that next season.
He reminds me a bit of a Morata and Abraham hybrid, capable of moments of magic, but also just so clumsy and it just lacks conviction and finishing at times. But I genuinely start to think that there's a curse with us, or curse with me going to Wembley. I haven't seen Chelsea score a goal at Wembley since 2017, I think, if I'm correct. I did see Chilwell score against Leicester, that was ruled out, so that doesn't really count. And I haven't seen Chelsea win at Wembley since 2015 League Cup final against Spurs, because I didn't go to the semi-final.
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years, because I didn't go to the semi-final against Palace 2 years ago. And then I think the other games that we did win was during lockdown, where we played City and United in the semi-finals.
Hakim
we won
Ziyech.
those, but Hakim Ziyech, and I think it was a De Gea howler for a Mount goal against United. But yeah, I feel like the Chelsea fans now going to United are getting frustrated, are going to Wembley, sorry. But there's still so much joy that Wembley brings. The match day experience is always class. So had we gone to that final, it would have definitely still kind of felt like we could salvage something from this season, especially when you looked at that United side that played yesterday. We could have gone into that game and got a result.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not over the Coventry game as well, to be fair. But that's a very good point you bringing up, actually. I mean, the officiating this weekend has been diabolical. Probably one of the worst weekends of refereeing across not just the Chelsea game. We're going to talk about the handball. That was a handball. But you look at the 3 in the Everton Forest game, which none of them were given as penalties. You look at the offside that was given to Coventry, final kick of the game. I just don't understand how they can make these. It's almost like they're making the rules up as they go along. I said to you before we started recording, the Palmer free kick. I generally thought, this is how much I was engrossed in the game. The wall was outside the box initially. I was screaming, it's a corner. But then to see that it actually hits his hand and he's in the box and the referee's got the best view of the incident and not to be sent to the monitor. Try and sum up how you felt. That must have been mental to obviously see that.
Yeah, I was in a stadium at the time, so I just see Palmer hit the ball. From my angle, it was tough to see that it took a deflection. But from Ortega's reaction and the City players' reaction, it almost looked like they were expecting to line up and defend for a corner. But instead, it's awarded as a goal kick. And then I can just see all the Chelsea players rush towards the referee. And then he does a typical thing where he puts his hand like that and points to his ear. So clearly VAR are looking at it if he's pointing to his ear, waiting to get the all clear. And then the fact he points to the goal kick is strange. I know that VAR can't overturn corners, goal kicks.
But if there's a case of handball in there, then surely the ref, and he's got his hand to his ear, clearly someone in a room somewhere, Stockley Park, is saying, like, I think this might have hit his hands. Let me check that.
Yeah. But it's the fact they checked it. They checked it, and then they told the referee it's not a handball and it's not a penalty, which means they have to go with the referee's decision, which was a goal kick, which is crazy for me. But forget that craziness. For me, it's the craziness that they looked at that and thought it wasn't a handball, because it clearly deflects off Grealish's underarm or bicep or whatever part of his body it is, and then changes the trajectory of the ball and deflects it away from target towards away from goal. And then you look at the Coventry United game yesterday, the Wan-Bissaka handball, which insane. I thought was much, much less of a handball than the Grealish one, and that was awarded as a penalty. Yep. So I use this word a lot on this podcast. There's just such a lack of inconsistency in the referees' decisions. I know they're bringing next season the virtual offside that they have in the Champions League with the 3D images, which I think will be good because it will kind of reduce those pixelated images we see and the toenails or fingernails that can be deemed offside. But when it comes to handball, there's still so much that needs to be done. What's classed as a handball? What's classed as the defender keeping his arm close to his body? But it's infuriating, because I think that could have been the goal that could have given us that 1-0 lead, at least taking the game to extra time, and then anything can happen in extra time and then penalties. But yeah, instead we got screwed over by a dodgy decision.
And that's happening too often, and not just at Chelsea, but other clubs as well. Obviously, we've seen the Nottingham Forest statement that they put out after their game. But I just think now there's got to be something done, because you're not just talking about the Premier League, the 3 points. That's one issue, but you're talking about a team that's played a series of games to get to a semi-final, one step away from the final. At that point, we don't know if it's United or Coventry that's going to be in that final, but you're one step away from the final. It's one of these things that you've worked hard all season. You've had some difficult games, injuries or whatever else, and then to just see some idiot on the pitch, not doing their job properly, it must be frustrating. It must be frustrating. Yeah. It's crazy to me.
We should do a Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp and ask for the audio transcript of what they discussed in that VAR room. That'll be really helpful. There's
got to be that. I think you're going to see a lot of clubs doing that now. Like I said, the Forest, I get their frustration. I know there's a selection of fans that think they were out of order and a selection of fans that think they were correct. I just think, there's got to be a bit more standing up to these people, because these things are happening more and more, not just with Forest, but as I said, Coventry, for me, how can you even determine that's offside? We're talking, like you said, toenails. You're talking the smallest of measurements of being offside, and the freezing of the frames is so ridiculous because they freeze it after the ball's been played. What you want to be doing is freezing it before the ball's been played, because that's surely the point of offside. If the ball's been played, clearly he's going to show that he's offside because he's made the run and the ball's been played. So
clearly.
It's baffling to me, and I think even like you just said, taking it to extra, I think we would have carried on. I think the way we were playing in that game, I'm not saying we had the best game. I think Manchester City didn't actually turn up as much as I thought they were, and they played a high line, as we know. So Nicholas Jackson was always going to get opportunities to run into. The same with Conor Gallagher and Palmer, but I just think had we gone 1-0 up, two things. I think the substitutions would have been really crucial from Pochettino, but I think we would have seen that game out. I really do. I think the momentum would have just taken us through the 90 minutes and we would have seen that game out. You look at the subs that City brought on, you look at our subs, and I questioned it, I think, with you at the time. Gusto going off, I think, due to that knock that he took in the second half. But Diaz, just as he coming on, they bring on Doku. There was always going to be a goal down that side of the pitch. I think
that's how they scored their goal as well, wasn't
exactly.
it?
I think it was a through ball from Doku to Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne through, and Correa has to do more at that point because he switches off a little bit. He switched off for the Foden chance as well, but he switched off for the goal. I think it's Silva that's almost defending the goal line, but Correa has to go out to Bernardo Silva at that point and just stop that shot from coming in my opinion. But avoidable goal, because is that a goal that we potentially should have? I mean, should Gusto really have come off? You know, was it that bad of an injury? Hindsight's lovely, but
yeah, I think the fact he was brought off probably a precaution before the Arsenal game, but also I think
in a semi-final, though. I mean, it's a semi-final.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
that's what's making me think it must have been quite a knock or an injury that was preventing him, or he was feeling pain on the pitch. Because not only did we bring a natural right back on, we brought a centre back that's been a makeshift right back. So clearly we ran out of options. But yeah, avoidable goal, lack of man marking, and it's almost like just a lapse in concentration, and we concede like that, and that's what City will do if you give them the chances. Whereas we have 10 chances and we can't bury a single one. Mental. But yes, it's frustrating. And the last thing I'm going to say about the refereeing is this PGMOL. They're so protected. They're so protected. And that's why, weirdly, at first I saw that Nottingham Forest tweet and I was like, oh yeah, the admins forgot to log out his personal account and just posted this. But then I thought about it and I'm like, I want to see more clubs stand up to the
they have
referees
to stand
like
up.
this, the officials. And when the last bit of that tweet, we would assess our options. Or NFFS, Nottingham Forest Football Club, will NFFC, sorry, will assess their options. I think like it's right. Like you want to show that not only
you're not going to stand down and just take what they're given to you. You want to stand up to them.
The club is standing up for the players and the performance they put in, but not the result they got. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of it. It's now managers, clubs, Twitter admins even standing up to the decisions and calling out the referees as well.
Yeah, definitely 100%. Hopefully more of that to come. In fact, no, I don't want more of it because I want less of the refereeing wrongs. I want the wrongs to be right so we don't have to do that. That's what we should be doing, but we'll have to see. But obviously, a sad day for Thiago Silva, probably his last outing at Wembley. In Chelsea colours, unfortunate not to win the League Cup, not to win the FA Cup with Chelsea. A statement I think was put out, whether it was via his social media handles or just through the grapevine on Twitter, that he's due to make an announcement this week about his future at Chelsea. It looks like he's going to be leaving the club. Talk about him maybe going back to Brazil. But this morning reports are suggesting he might go to another European club or potentially hasn't ruled out going to another Premier League club. And like we said before recording, you know, Fulham, maybe Brentford, top of the list, I'd assume, if in terms of what you mentioned before. What's your thoughts on Thiago Silva? Probably the right time, we spoke about him before, to leave. But yeah, it seems like it's kind of unfortunate the way it's panned out for him in his last season for us.
Yeah, I really feel for him. That's his 3 FA Cup finals and he's lost in all 3. So he really wanted probably one last shot at silverware of Chelsea, which would have been winning that semi-final and getting to the final in May and being able to do it against United, but he didn't get that opportunity. Then the 2 previous finals, domestic finals as well in the League Cup, Liverpool, both against Liverpool actually, defeat in both of those. So that's 5 finals that he's lost at Wembley. And yeah, you could tell at full time what it meant to him. I feel like it's the Premier League or any domestic cup is the one bit of silverware that's escaped from his cabinet while he's been at Chelsea. And I also feel like it's a shame because I feel like he's the last group of this crop of players that have that maturity, understanding of the game. They've kind of worked their way through all the ranks of European clubs. And I feel like you can maybe class a Toni Kroos, a Luka Modric, a Sergio Ramos in that bracket of players. And I feel like it's a dying breed of players, especially if you look at the 4-time scenes and Thiago Silva's crying on the pitch. And then you've got Madueke laughing with Grealish and sharing a joke behind. that's what frustrates me, and that's why, like, yeah, maybe the time is right. It's time for Silva to leave the club or hang up his boots. But at the same time, is it right that now we're going to be left with all these young players that just care about their social media image, meeting up with their opposition players after the game and going night clubbing or sharing banter in the dressing room? So I feel like that's almost sad for me that we're losing a class player, but we're also losing probably our last player that will understand what football is and the football I think we both grew up with. So yeah, it's going to be a huge loss when he does leave. And I feel like at time it looked like Fluminense made the right choice, was the right decision for him, going back to the club where he started his career in Brazil. But then I think both his kids are in the Chelsea academy. He's very settled in life in London. He seems to love Chelsea, just absolutely adore the club. So if there's a coaching job that becomes available to him here, I think he'd take that in a heartbeat. And even that image that Chelsea published on social media, where all the players are walking through the Wembley tunnel to the dressing room, and Silva's hand is touching the Chelsea crest. I feel like it goes to show that, it was the last chance saloon for him by getting a trophy. So yeah, there's images of him at full time crying were tough to watch. And whatever happens in the next couple of months, I just hope he gets the best possible farewell.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are plans for the final Stamford Bridge game to have some sort of moment to remember his time at Chelsea as well. So, but I agree with you. I think it's definitely we're going to be losing a lot of experience. I know I've said on here before and been critical that he at times slows the game down, and I think it is the right time for him to move on. But I think off-field stuff, that lack of experience that we're going to then have a massive void, a massive gap in that defensive line as well. So, and if he does go to another Premier League club, it kind of warrants the question of why aren't we keeping him, even just for the experience, at the club. If he's willing to extend his deal for another year, just keep him in that club just for another year, just to allow Badiashile and, Disasi and, Chalobah, if he stays at the club, or whoever we bring in, the opportunity. Wesley Fofana as well, forgot about him. Just give them someone to look to on the training ground every day to learn from for another year. Not expecting Silva to be, playing at least 20% of the games, but if he's in that Cobham every day, what harm can it do, in my opinion? But maybe Silva feels he can still play another year, another 30 games a season.
Yeah, yes or no answer. Would you give him one more year?
Based on what I just said, yeah, I would, but not. I'd maybe do like a player coach.
That's not yes. No.
I never do yes or no. I'd give him like a player coach. I'd give him like a player coach contract, and I'd say, look, you're not expected to be playing the games, but we want you to be a coach at this club. What about you? What are you thinking? No, you thinking time is up?
I feel like I want to give him another year because I just look at our other options without Silva and I just don't trust any of them. Especially if Chalobah's being sold, that leaves us with Badiashile,
Disasi and Fofana.
And we're probably going to have to go back into the market and go for what's he called, Ousmane Diomande from Sporting CP, who's going to cost us probably an arm and a leg.
Good player, good player, but I agree. I agree.
But yeah, and you just can't replace his experience, like you said. And I mention this a lot, but we sell Silva, second oldest player at Chelsea, Sterling on 29. So we're losing a huge chunk of footballing experience and wisdom in the dressing room, on the pitch, on the training ground. But I think it's inevitable now that he will leave, and I think we're going to have to plan for the future.
I agree 100%. It's just one of those things, again, it goes back to that recruitment of not being able to bring in someone of that level of experience to pass the baton over. I think I said on here before, I think Koulibaly potentially would have been that person for the last couple of seasons, but that didn't work out either. But let's move on, because there's a game tomorrow which I'm not looking forward to, if I'm honest, but a game against Arsenal, the Emirates tomorrow. I mean, we could potentially have a say in the title race. Unfortunately, not for ourselves, but for Arsenal. Going into this game, and to be honest, I didn't even watch their game. It was Wolves, I think they beat 2-0. Didn't watch the game, but going into it, quick turnaround for both clubs. Obviously, the weekend fixtures have been and gone, but a quick turnaround to play again on Tuesday. Confident going into this one? Is this one where we can take some positives from that semi-final and take it into the Premier League?
I'm not overly confident, no. I feel like our record at the Emirates and against Arsenal has not been great in the last couple of years. And I feel like their result at Molineux on Saturday proved that they bounced back from that performance against Bayern Munich, the defeat
Yeah.
against Bayern Munich, and the Champions League elimination. Because going to Molineux, keeping a clean sheet and scoring 2 is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And they're still in a title race. People, when they lost to Villa, they kind of automatically said, "Oh, it's Arsenal. They've done it again. They've done it again." But they're still in the title race. If City drop points, then they're joint top with Liverpool after, I think. So yeah, they're going to go all out to win this game. They're going to have their home fans, their support. I think our heads could massively drop now that we've got nothing to play for, essentially. We still got Conference League football, potentially that 7th spot up for grabs. But I don't think these players have enough in them to kind of really push through for the last 7 fixtures and try to get 7 points in every single one of them. 6 points, sorry, in every single 3 points. What am I saying? In every single one of them. So yeah, I'm not overly confident. I feel like Pochettino just needs to rewatch whatever Bayern Munich did at the Allianz, and we need to try to replicate that because they did a fantastic job in numbing Arsenal in all areas of the pitch. But yeah, like I said, really not confident. And I think we'll lose this one.
I don't think we've got the best record, like you say. I think going back to, it's got to be 2021, I think. I'll do my fact checks here.
We haven't beat them at the Emirates since December 2020. There we go. When Abraham got that winner, I think from a Willian assist.
I thought we played them in 2021 and won. I thought we beat them 2-0. I'm going to check.
Oh, you're right. You are right. Reece James and Lukaku, wasn't it?
That was the opening game of the season, wasn't it?
It was the second game of the season after the Palace one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
You removed it out of your memory because of Lukaku. I think that's what it was. You just don't remember because Lukaku was in that team. But no, you're right. We haven't got the best of records there at all. And obviously, you look at on paper the form of both clubs. You would say that Arsenal should go into this with the the idea that they can get the 3 points. They need it more than we do, obviously at the moment. So it's going to be difficult, I think, for us. And I think for me now, it's not a case of 3 points. It's a case of playing for pride. It's a case of playing for the badge, for the club, and understanding that, now, for me, if I was one of those players, I'd be thinking about next season already. I want to try and cement myself in this Chelsea team going forward. What can I do to try and put myself in the best position to do that? Play well from now until, the start of next season. But not looking forward to it at all. Just literally now, I think we just got the injury list from the latest injury list. Do you want the bad news or the bad news? Well, Cole Palmer's added to that list. Absent due to illness, so whatever that means. Malo Gusto's undergoing medical assessments. Also is Ben Chilwell. So they've been added to that list again of injuries.
How's Ben Chilwell been added?
Yeah, he came on, didn't he? Done 20 minutes. So he's probably ruptured his Achilles or something. But yeah, a lot of, again, players are injured. Palmer being a key one. If it's just illness, you'd hope maybe he's fit enough to be even on the bench tomorrow. But losing Gusto is crucial, because I think you look at who's going to play there. Disasi, not sure. Ben Chilwell, not really a big fan of Cucurella. I'm thinking about Saka on that right side with Cucurella. Not looking forward to that duel. Martinelli potentially on the other side with Disasi or Gilchrist. Not looking forward to that one either. So tough game coming up. Here's where Nicholas Jackson gets his hat-trick. But
I think the only way he gets a hat-trick is if you have a team of 9 men.
Well, and even then, one good thing I will say is we have given the top teams, if we can call them that, we have given them games this season. I think back to the Tottenham game, albeit against 9 men. City even against in the semi-final, but also in the Premier League as well. United fighting back, that final goal from Cole Palmer. So we have given ourselves a good account when we play the so-called traditional top 4, top 6 teams. But this one's big for me. This one's more about pride now. This isn't about just 3 points now. It's pride, bragging rights against Arsenal. Hopefully denting their title hopes as well. What lineup are you going for? Because with those names I've just added there, it's kind of picking itself, but...
Yeah. I think Petrovic, Cucurella, Chalobah, Silva. I don't want to say it, but Disasi right back.
It's going to have to be.
I'd rather Gilchrist, if I'm honest, but I think Poch will put Disasi. Then it'll be Caicedo.
Do you rest Enzo for this one? Do you go back to what we said earlier? Do you rest him, or do you give him the run out, knowing that this is a big game in terms of London rivalry, etc.?
I'd actually rest him. I think I would rest him, and I would play Caicedo, Gallagher, and I would actually play Chukwuemeka as number 10. I think, and then I'd have Sterling, Jackson, and Madueke probably.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think. What was your front three? Sorry, Sterling,
Madueke, and Jackson, and then I'd have Jackson, Carney Chukwuemeka.
Oh, as the 10.
As the 10, yeah. So I'm dropping Enzo, having a double pivot of Gallagher and Caicedo.
I agree with that. I agree. I think Enzo needs this rest. I think I looked at him, and there was a tweet floating around saying he looked tight. Yeah, he had tired legs after 20 minutes, but that will do that too if you're not fully fit. And I think we're just going to run him into the ground. And I generally think if he wants to go to Copa America, he's got a massive decision to make, whether he has a surgery now or, ideally I'd want him to have the surgery now and be ready for next season, fully fit to go again. So if it means we've got nothing to play for apart from pride, then let's give Carney the opportunity, and let's put Conor Gallagher alongside Caicedo, who has to have a level-headed game tomorrow night. Caicedo, he tends to be. I thought he was very lucky actually. We didn't pick up on it, but against Jack Grealish, the challenge there was quite a reckless one. He wasn't in control, quite high boot as well. So he's got to have a really calm game. Arsenal fans, the players will rile him up a lot, and they'll try and get under his skin. So he's got to be calm in that game. Same with Conor Gallagher as well. Just be calm.
Did a Jackson and Caicedo 9 yellow cards reset before the Arsenal game or after? Do you know?
I think it's after. I think last game, Everton. I think that was the last game. Not 100% sure on that, but I think they've reset. I think.
Okay.
So
yeah, might be worth double checking that ahead of kickoff as well.
Yeah, definitely. But Arsenal there. Arsenal. They are. You can get to Arsenal. They're not unbeatable. You can beat them. No, so I think
we were 2-0 up in the reverse fixture at Stamford Bridge. Then we kind of bottled it. The mistakes. Yeah,
we bottled it, and I think the pressure, respectfully, and as it should be, is more on Arsenal, because they obviously know. Liverpool won against Fulham yesterday. City have got a game in hand now, I think, due to the semi-final. So the pressure's actually on Arsenal. I know they're top of the league at the moment, but the pressure's on them, because if they drop points, it's opening that door again for Liverpool. It's opening the door for Man City to be able to reclaim the top spot as well. So, in terms of predictions before we wrap up,
I just can't see us going to the Emirates and getting 3 points. We'd be very, very fortunate to get a draw. I think it's going to end in defeat. I think it's going to be a repeat of the scoreline that happened there last season, which I think we lost 3-1 in that one. I think we'll lose 3-1, unfortunately.
I'm going to go for a low scoring one. I don't think either team have got a prolific goal scorer in their squad. I think you look at Arsenal, they rely on Saka, they rely on Odegaard or Kai Havertz this season. Trossard as well. Loads of players are chipping in with their goals, and very similar to us, we rely on Cole Palmer this season. Maybe Nicholas Jackson if he gets in the right space and actually uses his boots properly. So neither team have got someone who's prolific in front of goal. So I think it's going to be a 1-0 to Arsenal. I think it'll be a low scoring game, but we have, like I said, we've got to play for pride. That's all we've got. It's the only thing we've got left to play for is pride.
Definitely, yeah. And pride and denting Arsenal's title hopes.
Oh yeah, and that as well. That's probably more important than the pride, actually. But yeah, before we go, make sure you let us know your thoughts, your predictions, your predicted lineups as well. And as I said, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you give the video a like as well. Leave your comments, leave your thoughts. Hit the Linktree link in the description as well. That will take you to the social accounts and also the podcast episodes on Apple Music and Spotify as well. So again, make sure you go and give the audio version of this podcast a listen to as well. Theo, as always, thank you very much. Good start to the week. Let's hope for 3 points tomorrow as well. And we'll be back later on in the week, hopefully with 3 points in the bag against that team in red